Welcome back to the Resilient Teacher Podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. Today, I am joined by Jewellyn Forrest. Jewellyn has dedicated more than 33 years in education, and she is the co-founder of Autonomai Learning. She also serves as an instructor at the University of Texas, Austin, where she continues helping educators rethink how students learn, build confidence, and develop resilience. Today, we're going to talk about a framework called the Learning Mountain. And so, Jewellyn, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. What an amazing introduction. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I've spent my time kind of in the classroom, struggling with the same kind of like kids getting stuck, right? Or saying I can't and not really being specific, and then dysregulating because they just really don't know what's happening to them. And so I've kind of made it my mission to make that something that's visual and actionable in the classroom. And that's where the Learning Mountain kind of come from.
I love that. I love that. And I love that it talks about autonomy and autonomai. That's so fun.
I know. But my learning. Yeah. Because really that's what we want, right? We want it to be where the kids are not so dependent on us for every single step. And we want them to be active and we want them to be engaged. But a lot of times there's two sides to this coin, right? We're worried about, letting go. And whether they're prepared to really take that piece of agency and that engagement piece to their own independent level, or the kids are also sort of like, well, what does this mean? Where am I going? And so we have this kind of like imbalance of like, nobody has a map, right? And that's really where I started, was like, nobody has a map. Nobody has a visual representation of what not knowing to knowing looks like, right? And, what is the journey? Where do we start? And how do we actually see that learning doesn't happen magically? It's actually that practice and those effort pieces, and every deliberate step that we take gets us closer and closer to where we actually master and own the learning for ourselves. So it's not about getting to the top and just performing and just got it on the test, because then we're leaving kids like after they take the test and they can't remember. And they're like, wait a minute, I was doing this yesterday. Wait a minute. What's wrong with me? Right. And there's nothing wrong. This is actually part of learning. You can perform it, but then it's not yours yet. So you keep practicing. Right. And so that this takes time and this gradually, but having a visual. And when I use this in my classroom, it actually helps kids and me pinpoint like, okay, that's where you are. And that is so stabilizing and so grounding to not feel like you're in this nebulous, where am I in this process? I feel like I'm back at the beginning again. And that's, again, that dysregulation, right? So the shape of it is a silhouette of a mountain that doesn't just have one peak, it has two. So that you get to an understanding, and then you keep practicing, and then you internalize it and you come on back down the mountain. And that's like that transformational universal experience that every learner feels. It's funny because I'll start talking about this with different people in different spaces, different industries even. And they're like, oh, that's like when I learned how to do it. And I'm like, yes. And it kind of like lifts the veil on the mystery of learning, right? There is no mystery. It's a process.
Right. I love that. I love that you talk about it and you're like, you don't get to the top and you perform, because we talk about that on the podcast a lot about how burnout, you don't just get to the top and perform. It takes some time to get that internalized, and you still may have to climb that mountain multiple times.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What really inspired you to create this framework?
Well, number one, it was a lot of learning about neuroscience, learning about our emotions, learning about our self-talk, and learning about just, again, the process of learning and saying, I know how much we are visual, right? And that visualization that we can do and take with us wherever we go, that helps us, right? And so it was really like, I imagine like it like being a dinner conversation between Ethan Kross and Helen and Mornio Yang and all of these great researchers that we all know as teachers. But I sit them down at one table and I say, give me the best nugget, the biggest nugget of all your work, right? And let's put it together. And then I drew it. So it became this silhouette, which underneath, that's the shape, right? And then underneath, we place the patterns of emotions that we feel so that kids can say, wait, I not only have a name for the emotion, it matches that moment of learning. And I can be like, okay, wait a minute. I can talk about it. I can choose a way to manage it. And I know, again, that I don't need to just dysregulate and ask someone else for like to walk me through each step. And then on the very top layer of it lives that what I just mentioned, which is like that self-coaching. And this is where, we're the best cheerleaders as teachers. We are just like, you can do this, keep going, challenge helps you grow. But we also know that there's an inner dialogue that goes on in all of our heads. And what got me thinking about it was like, wow, we wait till we're adults to figure this out. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm replaying messages in my head. Why don't I teach kids about the power that they have to take just thoughts that pop into our heads? And instead of taking an unhelpful track, how can we replay those messages and have those helpful messages that coach ourselves through the moment? So what I like to say is that the Learning Mountain really is that visual representation and a mechanism to help kids build confidence in the process, to build the resilience with the emotions, and then the persistence that they need to take the next step. That's really kind of, again, it was a need I had as a teacher because I found myself just popcorning around and just putting out fires. And I was like, there has to be a better way. This is burning me out. It's taking the joy out of learning. And I can see that my students too are feeling like they want more, right? They did want more. They wanted to be able to do it, but they didn't have the language and they didn't have that visual to see. And so I sort of started with just the shape, just to see how that would go. And I was like, wow, there's something here. And then realizing too, that like we usually do SEL kind of as a separate lesson. And I was like, well, we talk about it in the morning meeting, but then we go learn, right? And it's like, wait a minute, why are we not putting those things together? And why am I waiting till the moment they're dysregulated to then bring it back up? Right. And so again, it was this mechanism that I could use to remind them that, hey, we've talked about this as a whole. You're a whole person. You're a human learning. This is so normal. And it just gave more, I guess it's just more tangibility to everything that we'd been talking about and unified where I was trying to do all these separate things and trying to help each individual kid. It really gave me that confidence that I've given them a tool that they can use and that I can be confident in turning that over to them.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like a lot of my students that I've had. I taught special education, and so a lot of my students really struggled with struggle, right? They really they struggled with struggle, saying like this is too hard, or I can't do this. How does understanding that Learning Mountain change the way that maybe teachers and students respond when that happens?
Yeah, it changes the culture of your space. It takes it from, hey, we're here to do school, or I need to finish this, or I need to do this, because again, that I can't comes from, I can't finish, I can't understand, I can't do, right? But when they understand that this is a process, it's about learning. It recenters, why are we here? To learn. What is it going to take? Effort. And here's some tangible steps you can do it, right? And that I trust you as a learner to do this. And it takes, it demystifies the whole, me as a teacher, I hold all the information and I'm here to impart it to you. No, we're all in this process together. And again, it reminds me as a teacher too, to be vulnerable like that and remember that I'm a learner and show them like, oh my gosh, you guys, yep, I'm right here in it. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going next, but I'm right here. I'm feeling the feelings, but here's what I'm going to choose to tell myself. And again, it just changes the culture from that performance and doing to the learning. And really, as an educator, we know that the deep learning is going to create that higher achievement. The more we just kind of rush through things and do the urgent and rather than the important, that's not going to get them closer to that higher achievement. It's that deep learning. And also when they know how to learn, they understand that process, they're going to persist a whole lot longer. And that's going to change the way that they achieve for sure.
Yeah. You said thinking about how they learn. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot in education about what to learn, right? And what to get through and what our curriculum is. And again, everything is very separate, but it's different than study skills because I'm all, 100% a part of like, yes, we've getting organized and focused and all those things, but really to understand the process that a learner goes through, that's a lifelong skill. That's something they're going to take with them, not from your classroom that day, but they're going to take it forever, right? That's not just, we got through this thing. And I think understanding that process, and that we can take sometimes what are teacher tools like feedback or inquiry or self-regulation. We sometimes think of those as like teacher tools, right? And the teacher holds those. But once you teach kids that, hey, there's this process and actually these tools are yours and you can use those to move yourself forward. Again, that's that I'm developing a learning approach, not just I'm passing this grade and I'm getting to the next thing. So I think that's what I mean by like how to learn.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this, and you may not have an answer to this, but I'm thinking about like some kids can climb the mountain really quick, and then others do it much slowly. They might even like run back down the mountain to come back up. How do you describe that process and that difference in how quickly students learn to students?
No, that is a great question, because in the framing of the learning mountain, first of all, you co-create it as a classroom, right? I kind of start out with like, hey, does learning have a shape, right? And they're like, it's a circle. And I'm like, oh, no wonder you feel like learning's drag, it's going around, 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 around. Well, and then right? And you introduce, well, that we have hundreds of mountains and that we are all climbing mountains. And some of us have more experience with some mountains and some of us have experience with other mountains, and really making that kind of a cultural norm underneath. Like, I really like to start out with base camp. I didn't mention base camp, but I'm going to mention base camp, because understanding that learning is not a solo sport, that we're here as learners together and we belong to this thing as learners, right? And that the collaboration that we get from each other and the responsibility that each of us have to step into this kind of discomfort that we have. It's not, there's going to be hundreds of mountains over this year. That's the context, right? But we're all climbing mountains everywhere in our lives and being really vulnerable about how, sometimes some of us are climbing speedily up these, but bet you they can't climb your mountain speedily, right? And just being really transparent as learners in general takes it from, again, we're doing school to, hey, we're learning. And this process of learning goes way beyond school. But you don't need to say that to them because they're young and they're in school. but getting that internal like fire and motivation and understanding of what the process is. So I teach college now, right? And I show this to my college kids and they're like, why has no one shown us this before? I have been spending years and years feeling like I was the imposter or I didn't have it or, all of these things. But when you give this to them, they can like internalize it and personalize it for themselves. And they're not so worried about the comparison because they kind of know where they are. It grounds them in a different way. So I hear you, because again, that comparison piece, but I think that's a cultural shift that the learning mountain kind of causes when you say, hey, we are all climbing mountains all the time. And I'm a co-learner. I am climbing mountains too, and being really vulnerable about that as a teacher. Yeah.
I'm also thinking about this and how sometimes as teachers, we can see that struggle and we can then lower the expectation a little bit to help them get over that mountain. Does that kind of like correlate to some of those your framework as well?
I hear you. Well, I hear you. And I think that is where we can hold that high expectation, right? And we can say, I know you could do this and I trust you to get there, right? That's that piece where we're narrating to them, hey, reader, hey, mathematician, I've seen you climb mountains before. And so I'm going to I'm going to hold you to that. Like, let's work on this a little bit. What can you do? What have you tried, right? Have you grabbed a resource? And again, that sense of like, we don't need to, the biggest learning they're going to get, right, is through going through the struggle. That's how they build their self-efficacy, right? That's how they're going to be able to tap back into that well of, I've seen myself succeed before, and it may not be in this exact way, but I know I can work hard and I can do it. I mean, one of my favorite things was that my students in my 4th grade class a year ago would work as hard on an exit ticket as they did on their state mandated test. Like they knew, like, you know what? this is my learning. I want it to be something that is quality and I care about. And I was like, wow, they don't see any difference in it. And they might be the last ones to finish too, but they were the ones that performed the highest because they knew in themselves that this was about learning and not just about performing. Yeah.
I love that. I really love the way that is framed. And I'm thinking about I say this on pretty much every episode, but like, I go back to my own kids and like how we handle things. And I know that this will impact a teacher, but I'm thinking about like parents in this moment and like, how can you help like right now, for instance, we're in summer and my kids at home have really been struggling with just cleaning their rooms and like maintaining their rooms and all of these things. And I get so frustrated and I'm like, I'm doing all of the things, but if we could just look at this as like a learning experience, oh my gosh, like how that would change the way that they feel about the work that they're doing, but then also how I feel. Like I won't be as stressed saying, why can't you just clean your room?
Oh my gosh, you have hit the nail on the head. This is not just for schools.
Right.
So one of the things, I have 4 children of my own. A lot of them, they are, my last one is launching to college this year. So I'm a full transparency. My last one's launching. But that's really what we need to do is think about it as parents too, right? And understand that sometimes we've inherited messages, right? Through how we were raised and what we thought learning was. And we're kind of passing that down to our kids. And again, reframing this as, again, a learning experience, an opportunity. They're on a journey. They don't need to be at the top yet. It's okay, right? Takes that, I can calm and I can respond to my kid differently. And honestly, it changes the way your child responds back to, right? So actually, I am full transparency, working on a parent workbook for this. So it's the same mountain layers, right? Bringing it into the 10 skills that can be taught through a conversation, right? We don't have to be the ones that, again, impart all of this to our kids, just like as teachers. That's not our job. Our job is not to direct, it's to guide. Right. And having these guided conversations and knowing how to step back as well as step in with that right kind of support, that balance is really hard. And there's no perfect way of doing it. Imperfect parent right here. But I will say having that lens to look through has helped me, like you said, okay, the room isn't clean right now. It's okay. What are they managing? What are they, other things are they doing? How much progress have they made? It just gives a context that helps us all go, okay, arrival is not necessary right now. It's okay.
I'm really reflecting on how I can apply this in my parenting, but also in the classroom too. And then when I'm thinking about this, it kind of gives up a lot of the control, I think, that we as teachers have felt like we have to have this control, and it kind of releases that off of our shoulders. And so I'm thinking about how that can reduce some of that teacher burnout that teachers have. Can you think of other ways that maybe I'm not thinking about it right now that?
Oh my gosh. It was huge for me in terms of burnout because I thought of each day as a process, right? And it's funny too, as teachers, how we forget when we get to the end of the year. I'm like, oh, we've made it to the end of the year. Look at how much they've grown, right? But in the process, we're still pushing, and so worried that there's some destination to get to, right? This definitely releases that. The other thing it did for me was it helped me prioritize. I kept thinking, you know what? Let me look at what I'm doing tomorrow. Is that helping the process? It kind of gave me a little bit of a check and balance in terms of like, is that something that's really going to move this learning forward? Or is that just going to be something that maybe I'd like to do, or I've always done, or the kids really love it? Like, what is the priority there? And it recentered me back on learning, right? And the other piece that I would say that it was amazing is that when I had my observations, my administration would come in and they knew exactly what was happening with the Learning Mountain, and they would hear the language on the kids' tongues. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is self-direction, right? Like, this is what we want our kids to do. And so I knew that it kind of helped me in all of those areas too, because this couldn't be something that just got me through day to day. This really had to be a holistic piece. It had to reduce my burnout. It had to help me prioritize all the many things, because nobody else is going to take things off your plate. They are going to put on your plate. So I wanted this to be, and that's why I call it a framework, because it's not really a program and it's not a curriculum. I mean, I've gone round and round about this, like, what is this, right? But again, it's this higher end lens of looking at student agency and how I can show people and show the kids how to step into student agency with confidence. I'm not like worried that's not going to happen. I mean, there's going to be bumps along the way. It's not perfect. But again, having that stabilizing force helped lift a lot of things. It took the fires away because I could just point to it and I'd say, what's happening right now? And they would be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to, yep, I need to coach myself that way. And they start adding their own emotions and their own language up there. And it becomes, oh, that was Sophie's way of saying that. I used Sophie's way of saying that today. It's amazing. It's so all of those things, again, help as an educator too. It's not simply another tool to just use. It really unifies kind of what you're all doing.
You kind of touched on this just a little bit, because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, can this framework prevent some of those challenging behaviors that we have in our classroom before they happen?
It is proactive classroom management. Yes. Yeah. Because setting this out gives them that context of like, oh, why I can regulate myself, like, and how, right? But I think too, there's another piece of even, we have some kids that are firecrackers and some kids that can do it all themselves, right? But it also helps us see that the whole space is a place where learners come, and that it's our responsibility, not just for ourselves to regulate ourselves, but because that helps everybody learn. Right? It's that responsibility. My job is to learn and to really make this a space where everybody can learn. And, there's a lesson that I do within it that kind of says, like, how do you like to learn? Do you like a quiet space? Do you like it? And then we talk about, gosh, there's all sorts of different ways that people like to learn here. Right. And again, it gives that context, because I think kids don't, in the moment they're feeling it, and we've given them that language to help them kind of, okay, wait, this makes sense. I mean, and yet sometimes we need to go to the comp corner. Sometimes we need to grab a fidget, right? And all those things. But other kids see that, okay, they're doing that, not just for themselves, but they're doing that for me so that I can learn. We're all contributors here, and we're all part of the learning. So I think, again, it sets the foundation, and it grounds it in not like 18 different things, but one thing, right? One thing you can point to that can become the mechanism that everyone, including me, and it is funny because they'll start talking to each other. Did you go over to Learning Mountain, see what you could, they will start helping themselves, each other go and use the tool for sure.
I love that. I love that so much. And when I'm thinking also is like, there's a teacher out there who's like, okay, this sounds fantastic. One, they've now looked at the show notes and they're like, I can see the Learning Mountain, right? Like if they're a visual, they're looking at those show notes. Excellent. But then they're like, okay, what are some practical ways that a teacher could start using this tomorrow, even if they're just now listening to it on their commute?
I'm so excited about it. Well, the cool part about this is I didn't make this prescriptive, right? I really want this to be co-created by teachers. I want this to be a teacher tool, because I know that when I sat through many initiatives and I was told exactly what to do, I went and personalized it myself. And I said, wait a minute, I like this piece and I like this piece, but don't tell me exactly what to do. But it's one of those things where I would really want them to, put the shape up and explore what their students say about the process and what they think about the process. I mean, step one is to think about it yourself, right? Do I follow this pattern? Is this something that, okay, because I think that's then how we can really take that to the classroom with authenticity. I think it's really hard when you just kind of take something that's in like poster form and put it up there and kind of, I'm trying to memorize, because I tried to do that, man. I was a Marilyn Burns, let me memorize the script. She did it that way. I got to do it this way. But really what I want this to be is it's about the teacher using this tool in the way that best works for their students. And so I would really say, play with the shape and see how that feels. And then think about the emotions that go underneath and some of the language that could coach yourself, on top, and see where that goes. I would love to come and do professional development and be all of those things, but I really do want this to be a teacher tool. I want this to be something that gets into students' hands and gets used by what I feel is just such a big need.
Yeah. So, okay, the teacher's like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm here. Where can they learn more about you, what you do, all of those things, the autonomy, all of it?
Yeah, so I have a website and it is autonomailearning.com. On there, I have one of the skills. Oh, we've got thunder. I don't know if you can hear that. I've got a downloadable lesson that is actually parent facing, but it covers the skill that we kind of talked about in terms of self-coaching. So you'll kind of understand that, okay, this part of the language, but you'll see some visuals, some different ways that different teachers have used it in their classrooms. It's become a school-wide initiative in so many places where principals have said, you know what, I'm on board. We're going to do this. We're bringing in the counselor, and we all talk about it. And then it becomes parent language too. So there's all sorts of resources there on my website. And I would love to have people visit and contact me. I am just a click away. I am available by email as well.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to put all of the links down in the show notes. That way educators can go and grab those up. Last question before I let you go. If there was one message you hope that every educator walks away with after today's conversation, what would that be?
You've got this. I think that we as teachers need to trust our instincts and what we know to be true about students and about learning, and to focus and keep doing the hard work. I think we need to trust ourselves in that, because there's a lot of messages out there that will tell us otherwise. And we are amazingly skilled people with amazing talents that we need to stand on our own 2 feet with that.
I love that, because that's how we end every episode here on the Resilient Teacher Podcast. We say, you are a resilient teacher. We're in this together. You got this.
Yep, there you go. I didn't even know that. There you go.
Thank you, Jewellyn, for being a part of this. Can't wait to get this episode out to all the educators, and make sure to check out the show notes for more information.
Thank you, Brittany.